Hi, all, and welcome to Digital Success Dialogue. Our topic today is digital transformation and fintech in Africa. We have with us today Aditya Agarwal, Senior Business Consultant at INT, and he will be joined in conversation by Ali Hussein Kassim, a serial entrepreneur and regular contributor on all things tech and digital transformation. Over to you, Aditya, but before we begin, we have a small introductory video. Here we go.
Hi, Ali. Thank you, Ishani, for the introduction.
Hi, Aditya. How are you?
I'm good, Ali. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning to you. I'm good.
So, for the benefit of our viewers, I'll quickly give a brief introduction to Ali, who has taken time out to join us today in this edition of the Digital Success Dialogue. So, Ali's, as Ishani said, Ali is a serial entrepreneur and a thought leader on all things tech. He is a subject matter expert when it comes to fintech and digital transformation in Africa. He is the chairman of the Association of Fintechs in Kenya and also of the Kenya ICT Action Network, which is a think tank based in Nairobi. He is also a member of the National Technical Committee of the Kenya National Innovation Agency and a board member and chair of the Projects and Resource Mobilization Committee of the Kenya Tourism Promotion Fund, which is a $200 million fund. So, welcome, Ali, and we thank you for taking out the time and grace us with your presence. So, quickly,
you,
just to start.
It's a pleasure to be here today.
Thank you. So, Ali, just to quickly start off, it seems that you have a great amount of experience when it comes to technology and fintech in Africa. Can you give us a very brief snapshot of your journey, how you came to this point?
Well, my journey in technology space in Africa goes back to the late 1900s, 1998, 1999, when I joined then NASDAQ digital agency called 3Mice Interactive Media. I would say 3Mice is one of the earliest tech startups, not just in East Africa, but across Africa. So I grew my career in 3Mice for several years, left 3Mice to run a digital global agency that was setting up in East Africa called Wonderman. Did some time at Wonderman, left then Wonderman and founded my own consultancy in digital transformation, HN Associates. Through that, really engaged within the tech ecosystem, worked with various organizations, banks in the region. And most of what I know and executed in the digital space is actually self-taught. Learning and doing, as we like to say, in Kenya. When you are on the ground, you really learn a lot. In those days, there were no certifications for any digital application. There were no certifications. So a lot of the stuff that we learned, on the ground with colleagues and contemporaries like Ken Joroge, founder of Cellulant, Paul Kukubo, founder of 3Mice and the first CEO of the ICT authority in Kenya, Moses Kemibaro, a tech blogger, tech entrepreneur who runs .savvy, Mbugwajia, these names that are known in East Africa and probably across Africa. Those are my contemporaries. Today, apart from my various board responsibilities. I also run a fintech and involved in Ducare, which is an e-supply chain platform that transcends both e-commerce and fintech. So, in a nutshell, that's who I am. A lot more about me you can, of course, find on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is a very live profile about myself and really what I do in the industries that I'm involved in.
Sure, sure. Thank you for that, Ali. So let's jump towards the topic a little bit more now. So we are trying to understand today that there has been a major transformation in the fintech industry, right? Because a lot of new players are coming up, and traditional banking and traditional companies which have been existent since the last few decades are seeing that some market share is moving away from them, right? So how do you think that banks can fight back and retain customers, and when such fintech players are jumping into the market?
So I'll be cautious about making statements like banks are losing market share, and generally, Aditya, what is actually on the ground and what people think is happening out there is actually different.
Okay.
So let's talk about the financial services and fintech ecosystem in Africa today. And I'm taking a general outlook across Africa because there may be differences from a regulatory perspective, there may be differences from a policy perspective, but there are some salient similarities. Number one, very few jurisdictions in Africa have a fintech policy.
Okay.
In fact, off the top of my head, I can't think about a country in Africa that says we have a fintech policy.
Okay.
And this needs to change. This needs to change. If you look at Europe today, you look at the UK, you look at Scotland, you look at Germany, they have a specific strategy for fintech.
Right.
You will hear terms like fintech UK, fintech Scotland, fintech Germany. This is a combination of players from incumbents in the banking sector and financial services and the larger financial services sector, and players in the fintech space, and players in the regulatory and policy space. So what has that done? That has helped Europe really grow the fintech ecosystem and stop this conversation around adversarial relationships.
Right.
When we started in the fintech space in Africa, we used to be very adversarial, and we quickly realized that there's enough on the table for everyone, Aditya. Everyone has a role to play. So I'll give you an example. In Kenya today, if you're not engaging with banks, if you're not engaging with the mobile money operators, and in Kenya, basically, when you're talking about mobile money operators, you're really talking about one thing. Let's be honest. I mean, M-Pesa has 98.5% of the market. So if you're not talking about M-Pesa, which is the new rails in the financial services sector, you are dead in the water. That's one component. But the other component that is not talked about a lot is that cash is still king, not just in Kenya, across Africa. All right? Despite the success of mobile money, despite the success of mobile banking, transactions are still 85% plus cash.
Right.
So the ecosystem must all sit together and say, guys, there's enough meat on the table for everybody. Let's have a seat and let's have a conversation around that. So that's one side of the story. The other side of the story is that from a regulatory perspective, in Kenya today, you're starting to see payment service providers being licensed by the Central Bank of Kenya, and this is great. We have seen the latest PesaPal.
Right. Al- Ali, we seem to have lost some audio on your side. Ali, you're on mute. Yeah. Hello.
Apologies about the connectivity issue.
No worries. No worries. So you were saying.
So I was saying
Yeah.
that when you are looking at the ecosystem, you need to look at it holistically. And
Right.
regulatory and policy interventions are going to be very critical going forward. Hence why we have formed the Association of Fintechs in Kenya, because the right productive and constructive dialogue with policymakers and regulators and other players in the ecosystem are super important for the growth of the ecosystem. So we are all talking.
I think we have lost Ali due to some connectivity issues. Let us wait for a couple of seconds. He will rejoin. Yeah, Ali. We can see you fine. If you could unmute and restart, please.
Math is low.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. Apologies about that mishap. So we are talking about a big market. This market needs to be tackled in the right way. 85% of of transactions is still in cash. So how do we deal with that? What are those friction areas that the industry can work together with? We must be able to attack this industry while at the same time competing in the same, in the marketplace, Aditya.
Right. Understood. Ali. I think that is very insightful because one of the very important things you said is that there is enough space in the entire economy for everyone, and it need not be adversarial. Everyone can survive together and in fact support each other in growing into the space and effectively
Absolutely.
go towards a direction where the customer benefits from everyone.
Absolutely.
Right. So, Ali, then if you talk about open banking, then how do you think that comes into the space now? Because open banking is another very important part of the economy which is happening right now.
From African perspective, so let me take it from an African perspective first. I think
Yeah.
open banking is still very much in its infancy. A few countries are starting to make strides towards open banking. There are positives and negatives around what is happening in different countries. So let me tackle maybe two countries in Kenya. Nigeria first has moved much faster from a policy and regulatory perspective when it comes to open banking. But I think one of the biggest problems Nigeria is facing is the lack of penetration of mobile money in Nigeria.
Okay.
How that is going to play out in the next few years, I think your guess is as good as mine. I don't want to bring a crystal ball in this conversation and say this is what's going to happen. But Nigeria is definitely a very important market across Africa and globally now, as you can see, from a fintech perspective. Some of the largest, in fact, the largest fintechs in Africa now are in Nigeria. InterSwitch, Paystack, which has been acquired by Stripe, and Flutterwave. And now, I wouldn't say Cheaper Cash in Nigerian because the founders are both from Ghana and from Uganda. But these are now fintechs that are starting to play in the Pan-African space, which is super great. You know, this was something that only the transnational banks like GT Bank, EcoBank from West Africa, and KCB in Kenya, and PT Bank were able to play. But we are now seeing very interesting plays from fintechs. Let me not forget to mention PesaPal in Kenya and Cellulant in Kenya. What is interesting is when it comes to open banking, in Kenya we already have a de facto, I don't know if you understand that term, de facto, not in law, but already in place, sort of open banking ecosystem. You have Safaricom M-Pesa, which already has open APIs for players in the ecosystem. And I think that's probably the best example in Africa of a telco that has completely transitioned to become a part and parcel of the financial services ecosystem. In fact, so important today in Kenya that without M-Pesa, no bank has a mobile strategy. So open banking is already de facto. Then, of course, you have the Kenya Bankers Association organization called IPSL, Integrated Payment Services Limited, with their PesaLink platform, which links payments, instant payments from bank to bank. So you already have the makings of a very interesting ecosystem of open banking. Now, when we now get and make this a standard in law from a regulatory perspective, allowing players in the financial services ecosystem to plug in with approval from regulators and policymakers, we have the makings of a super interesting fintech ecosystem across Africa. And now you're talking about the Pan-African free zone that is coming into play. And that free zone has to take into account not just physical goods, but intangible goods like financial services. So what I can say at it here is that, one, there's no better time than to be an African in the financial services. Number two,
that's great.
Investors need to start looking into more detail beyond just fintech, because what we're now starting to see is conflict, an integration of different plays in the technology ecosystem, from agri-tech to e-commerce to software as a service platforms, and fintech playing a key role in the growth and expansion of these different tech ecosystems across Africa. So interesting time ahead.
So from what I understand, Ali, I think it is very important that because Africa is such a large continent, and we need to consider in some situations Africa as a continent, and in some situations the various countries as individual pieces on a large chessboard, and we need to see that how they can play together and ensure that the entire economy goes in a positive direction, right?
I think you have nailed it there. Africa is a huge continent. I think 1.3 billion people today. But
Right.
please don't make a mistake and think that Africa is one country. It's 54
Absolutely.
different. It's 54
Absolutely.
different countries. Now, with the
And a lot
free
of
zone,
cooperation is needed.
a lot of cooperation is needed. A lot of conversations must be had.
Right.
One of the biggest potential setbacks is obviously the different regulatory frameworks from different countries. But with this new free zone, we are hoping to play a role. And the Association of Fintechs in Kenya is a member of the Fintech Network, of the Africa Fintech Network. That's very important for us because the Africa FinTech Network is now taking a Pan-African view of
Right.
fintech and engaging very successfully with the different players, the different plays within the African ecosystem. And banks need to start playing a big role also in this fintech conversation across Africa. What I feel is that cooperation between fintechs, cooperation between banks, cooperation with banks, with insurance companies for insurtech, with other capital markets players would then make the whole fintech ecosystem whole. One of the things,
Right.
of course, that we have seen in Africa for the last couple of years is that there's a lot of focus, and for the right reasons, on payments. So payments
Right.
drives everything. But payments alone is not fintech. It does not make fintech whole. It's payments, it's wealth management, it's insurtech, it's reg tech, it's real estate, it's you've got all these different components of the fintech ecosystem that must work together to make it whole. So we are still, again, to emphasize, we are still early days into the development of fintech.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think then that means to ensure that the entire ecosystem is successful, we have to ensure that there is no bureaucracy between these countries, and the motive should be progress. The motive should be development of the entire technology industry as a whole and the banking industry as a whole, to ensure that the end customers are the people who are benefiting, rather than relying on the traditional thought processes which were prevalent earlier, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. To just emphasize again that what we are seeing from a perspective of where the money is going to go.
Yeah.
We always try to follow the money. So in the last couple of years, billions of dollars have been put into the technology sector.
Right.
I would say,
Right.
I would say more than 80% of that money is coming from foreign investors. What is critical going forward is for Africans to see more local investors playing in this space, the technology space, because a bigger percentage of
Yeah.
the money is going to fintech. Last time I checked, you're talking about between 45 to almost 50% in the last couple of years of investment in technology startups in Africa going to fintech. That's a huge, huge, huge percentage.
Right.
You have to detract from the conversation about fintech, but what you find is that in Africa, 36% or more
Mm-hmm.
of GDP is coming from agri-tech. So agri-tech is starting to play also. And agri-tech is integrating with payments
Right.
directly to farmers, up to use the sense of the protocol and stuff like that. So, yeah.
So, so Ali, when you talk about investment and a huge inflow of money, then obviously I think that one of the very important things which this money is being used for is obviously innovation, right? So from
Sorry.
your point of, I was saying that I think a primary usage of this investment money is innovation, right? So from your point of view, because of the pandemic, specifically in the last 1.5 years, uh, what do you think from mindset what's happening means, do you think that under this stress of the pandemic, innovation has bettered because people want to do things better, do things more remotely, rely more on digital, rely more on technology, because the pandemic has taught us that we should rely a little bit lesser on the physical side of things? Or do you think innovation has blocked because the pandemic has obviously brought on a lot of different fears and a lot of different problems entire the ecosystem all over the world?
So, a number of things. The pandemic has obviously had uh, very, very severe effect on the economy of the world. But the industries that have benefited mostly from the pandemic are tech-based industries. And fintech is right there. My friend and colleague was talking about on the term credits, COVID-assisted digital transformation. So in this last 1.5 years, we have seen a
Yeah.
tremendous increase in the use of fintech for transactions. Tremendous
Right.
increase. And I don't think we are going to go back to pre-COVID days. Having said that, there is still a lot of friction within the fintech ecosystem, especially when it comes to payments. For example, mobile money is at the center of it. And mobile money has grown the use of digital money across it, and especially what you're seeing though is that some of these fees are especially interconnecting fees between different
Right.
platforms, from banking to different mobile money platforms. This is something that players in the sector need to address. Let us not wait for regulators and policymakers to start intervening in this, because that's a skewed way of dealing with market dynamics. I think we need to really start thinking about growing the market. A number of bank CEOs have been on record saying that the fight is not with fintech, the fight is not with other banks, the fight is with cash. We need to translate that and bring it into the financial services sector. But we're not going to do that if I am transferring 150 coins, which is $1.5, and you're charging me 23 shillings to make that transfer. That's crazy. Doesn't make sense. You know, I think mobile money service providers, banks need to start really thinking about these things. Now, there's a bit of disconnect sometimes when it comes to fees. So sometimes when I'm sending money, small little monies, I feel like it's free. Sometimes when I'm transferring to, so for example, if I'm sending money to someone
Yeah.
outside the ISA ecosystem, Someone who has a mobile, who has a Safaricom line, but is not
Mm-hmm.
registered as a, the price, the cost for that transaction goes up astronomically, like 7 times. And I've engaged with my friend at Safaricom. I'm like, it explain this. Completely does not make sense. So, are you basically saying that to encourage this person to
Yep.
move into the M-Pesa ecosystem, you're going to penalize me and charge me 7 times? How does that make sense? You
Absolutely,
know?
absolutely. Because what we are doing is we are forcing people into a situation where this is happening.
Exactly. We must, and therein lies the opportunity for other players. So we must start asking ourselves as an ecosystem, not just in Kenya, but in Africa. Uh, M-Pesa has done extremely well. But 98.5% of 98.5% market, what has happened? What is required? There is a market failure somewhere that has
Right.
led to M-Pesa becoming so dominant in mobile money. And I know M-Pesa Safaricom doesn't want people to talk about dominance. Uh, but I'm twisting my conversation, and I'm not accusing M-Pesa or Safaricom. I'm asking, what are the other players? What is it that we can, as an organization, as a country, and as a continent, that we can ensure increased access to financial services? Look, I don't want to talk about financial inclusion, because anytime
Right.
we start, rather, I would want us to talk about access, access to financial services. Uh,
Absolutely.
does it mean that now, because I have mobile money, that I have access to financial services? What happens to that micro small medium enterprise that requires um, supply chain financing? Can that be done through the mobile human services ecosystem? What pipes can be used to actually enhance services, financial services to that micro small medium enterprise? Um, I saw a World Bank report last year that says the deficit for funding to micro small medium enterprises in Africa is about $100 billion. So, as everyone and his grandmother is focused on mobile lending to individuals, we are letting a very important component of the economy in Africa. We are letting them down. Agriculture, the same thing. Agri, 36% GDP, 1 to 2% access to financial services. So we have a lot more work to do, despite the success that we have. We haven't even started scratching the surface.
Right. Ali, I think when we talk about access to mobile money, I think one very important question which all of our viewers would like to know is that so if which is the flip side of things, right? So it's a very positive thing that mobile money means more access to people, and I think one of our audience members, Sagar, has asked a question as well in regards with that, where he says that in the last 15 years financial inclusion has increased from 26% in Africa to 83%, and the how is the fintech market, how is the fintech industry contributing to that? And I think you have already explained that to a great deal. What I want to know about is the flip side of it. So as soon as access to money becomes easier, that means criminals can also defraud you and access your money that much easier, right? And I think it's a very similar situation in India as well, that every day in the newspapers we get to hear various stories of people getting contacted on their phones, and someone is posing as if they are calling from a bank, and some story they are using, and they are trying to defraud people, right? So any suggestions, how can people be more careful? And because what is happening is that people, there are a lot of people who want to be a part of this digital transformation, but they are scared, right? They think that they, if they become a part of this transformation, they might get defrauded in the future.
Aditya, are you there?
So what do you suggest to such people? Yeah, I was just asking that, what do you suggest to such people who are hesitant
So,
to become a part of this digital transformation?
my answer to that is very simple. Muggings happen every day in our life. Does that mean that you will stay at home and not go out to work or go out for the drink with friends? I think the issue here, one of the most interesting things when it comes to mobile money, fraud and cybercrime is perpetrated using social engineering tactics,
Right.
and I have seen that very prevalent in Kenya. And social engineering is simply the art of manipulating people so they give up confidential information. So just yesterday, there was a video circulating on WhatsApp groups in Kenya about this guy who gave couldn't understand how he spoke to a stranger, and 2 minutes later, money was moving out of his M-Pesa account. That's a classic social engineering. The guy probably gave out information that led to this other person knowing or manipulating that information to get his password to his M-Pesa account. So I think education is the most important thing. Informing, and the onus is on all of us, not just the financial services players, banks and telcos or mobile money operators. But here's the thing about um, about criminal activity in cyberspace. Shed a light on it. Sometimes you find that you have the usual same players going around. One of the things that we have talked about in Kenya is how do we create a computer incidents reporting team or task force where people are sharing information on different tactics and or bad players that are operating in the ecosystem to be able to actually deal with some of these issues. Um,
Right.
I would say like search engine optimization. This is a continuous game that we must continue playing. We must continuously inform others because the more guys find out about cyber crimes, social engineering tactics, the more the bad players come up with new ideas. Innovation is not only confined to players on the right side of the law. Innovation
Right.
also happens with criminals. So really, really important that we continuously share information, that we
Right.
remain vigilant, and we continue to ensure that people are not losing their jobs when it comes to uh, cybercrime. But it's a major problem, and it is attracting some of the very traditional thinkers to get on.
Understood. Understood. So I have a couple of more questions which have been asked by the audience as well. So then, what do you think, Ali, is the next step for any sort of inexpensive, accessible technology and more efficient digital transformation for Africa?
Sorry, I didn't hear that last point.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, I didn't hear the last point. I don't know whether.
Yeah, so I was saying that there is another question from the audience, is that what is the next step according to you in inexpensive accessible technology to mobilize consumers more towards fintech adoption?
I think again, to emphasize the point, we're still in our early days. Education, information is important. Removing friction within the fintech ecosystem from user experience problem. Still, a lot of banks have horrible mobile
Right.
mobile banking platforms from banks, and it takes me back to the early 1990s when we were starting to build it. And you know, there's no there's no lack of talent in Africa to build
Absolutely.
fast, fast, first class, world class application development space. This friction is one of the biggest problems that is stopping people from engaging in fintech. The other one is that I've talked about is cost. Cost is a serious issue. Cost of services, cost of the fees that are being charged sometimes are just crazy and astronomical. The third one is the regulatory and policy one. Uh, we must work with policymakers and regulators to make sure that innovative ideas are not killed because of the lack of understanding of regulatory compliance issues. A lot of fintechs, many fintechs that are coming up new are not considering the policy and regulatory framework. Now, maybe, not maybe, this is an expensive exercise, but this is one area that the association is taking up to ensure that plans become a very important issue. Policy is also an important issue. So we're going to get some sort of shared services model when it comes to compliance.
Understood, Ali. So I think to summarize before my last question to you is that from what I understand as a summary is that a lot of what you said point towards one very important fact, which is education, right? That everyone in the entire ecosystem, from the regulators to the bankers to the fintech founders to the consumers, everyone needs to be educated regarding what exactly is fintech, what exactly is the way in which fintech is related to banking, and how bureaucracy can be put aside and ensure that progress becomes the motive. And as you very rightly said, that there is enough space for everyone and it need not be adversarial, right? So all of these things point toward a very important fact, and as a part of your answer to the cyber crime question as well, is education. That if people are educated, if everyone in the ecosystem is educated, that what exactly is happening and what should happen in the future, there is a greater chance of progress, there is a greater chance of success, right? So to wrap up that particular point regarding education, what would you suggest as any maybe particular podcasts or books or blogs which our viewers can read and maybe hear and get educated?
So my solution to this may sound simple, but it is something that the continent and individual countries in Africa must think about. We must emulate some of these ideas that are being done across the world. So one of the big ideas should be some sort of organization called FinTech Africa, and then sort of take it down to individual countries where players are coming together across the continent and across each country, regulators, fintechs, incumbents are coming together to work towards a safer, healthier fintech ecosystem.
Understood, Ali. Any parting comments, Ali, from your side? Because I think that has been a very insightful session, and we have learned a lot. And honestly, there is a lot for everyone to think about after hearing you out today, and understand that what can possibly be the next steps forward when it comes to engaging with the fintech industry. So, any parting comments from your side?
I think for me, just one most important thing is just to emphasize that the space is big. There's enough moolah for everybody to do. Let's get together. Let's make sure that we are creating an environment safe, that is safe for investors, that is safe for consumers, and that is safe for the entrepreneurs that are responding from a bank. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ali, for your time. And I think everyone has learned a lot. And to all our audience members who are listening to the session today, you can obviously reach out to IndusNet Technologies as well as Ali through LinkedIn as part of the broadcast today. And we any of us would be happy to help you out in regarding any additional questions you might have to get to know more, to get more educated about this.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Ali.